During Unit 1, we looked at some basic explanations for human behavior according to the three social sciences that we use in this course. This next assignment is going to have you apply these basic and simplified explanations for human behavior in a form of an assignment. Again, some behavior is a lot more complicated than what we'll visit here, but it gives you a sense of or a little sense of why people do what they do. So if you can take this chart, and I will describe what each of these reasons are and then try to provide an example. Okay, so the first one is avoidance of pain and defense mechanisms. As humans, we don't want to be harmed, and whether that's emotionally or physically, we try to avoid pain as much as possible. And you can see this in a traditional classroom. If a teacher asks a question and there's this awkward silence falls over the classroom, a lot of people will do different things so the teacher doesn't pick them to speak to the class. So might tie their shoe, might cough, might look like they're looking for a piece of paper, anything to avoid eye contact so the teacher doesn't pick them. Defense mechanisms, we didn't talk at all about defense mechanisms, but there's a lot of defense mechanisms humans use to, I guess, maintain self-preservation or to maintain their dignity in front of people. One of my favorite observations of defense mechanisms is on a day of a test. Students will come in and say, "Oh, I didn't even study for this test. I'm screwed for this test. I'm gonna bomb it." Well, it's the perfect saying or the perfect method to save face. So when you get the test back, that student who said, "Oh, I'm going to do horrible on this test," if they do horrible, well, then everyone will see, well, he didn't study, it's fine. But if he does awesome, it's also fine because then they're like, "Oh, wow, well, that guy didn't even study, and he got a good mark." So you'll see some people use that. It's the ultimate I think it's the ultimate defense mechanism. Okay, there are 6 different types of defense mechanisms. You can talk about how people fantasize, maybe about winning the lottery or something like that um, to avoid pain. There's repression. That's when you push a painful thought through our unconscious mind, and that's probably an observation that you wouldn't be able to observe. Um, Rationalization. This is when we convince ourselves that there are less pleasant reasons for a situation. So um, you get a bad mark, say, in this course, and you'll say, "But really, I'm really fit. I went for a run instead, and that makes me feel better." Or I got a better mark in English, and that's the only prerequisite that I have for university. Sour grapes is when you say something's not a worthwhile goal. So let's say you lost a basketball game, and then you say to yourself, "Well, basketball is not my favorite sport. We're a volleyball school anyways, so that's why." Or you get a bad mark in this class, and you say, "Well, I don't really learn online very well. This class is a bit of a joke anyways. I got a good mark in the classes that really matter." Um, and then there's regression, and regression is when problems become too big to handle, and you use tactics that worked when you were younger. So having a tantrum, sulking, becoming clingy and dependent upon others. And then the final one's denial. You just ignore the problem, ignore the criticism. So I think I gave you a bunch of examples there. Just to repeat, the 6 defense mechanisms are fantasy, repression, rationalization, sour grapes, regression, and denial. Okay. Second one is the quest for pleasure and the pursuit of instant gratification. Again, that's comes from our limbic system. and we always want to feel good. Um, and I think the first two uh, are good reasons why people procrastinate, because doing a paper right away is not a lot of fun, but checking social media, watching the Oscars, that's fun. So we try to delay pain and do what feels good right away. If we're hungry, sometimes the easiest thing is to go to McDonald's and grab a meal, because we're satisfying that craving right away. What would be more painful would be to cut up a bunch of vegetables and make a salad. Quest for knowledge is the value of the cortex, or what motivates us to crave knowledge. Um, and I guess an example for a quest for knowledge would be students who ask questions all the time, or reading newspapers, researching. Okay. Next one's bystander effect, and that's the idea that we don't want to get involved with others' problems. We want to maintain our normal routine, our self-preservation. So we're walking down the hall and a grade 9 falls and his books go everywhere. Most people won't stop and help, because that'll make us late. That'll put us out of our comfort zone. It's the idea too, if you see a traffic accident, a lot of people won't stop and help and just assume that someone else will help. Evolutionary psychology. This is interesting. This is the idea, and you talk about this more in HHS, but this is the idea that men need to prove their, um, I want to say, dominance or superiority or physical presence, and women need to prove that they're nurturers. So nurturers and caregivers, and whereas men have to prove their protective nature. This is proven by the idea that globally, the average age gap between men and women in marriage is 3.5 years. That men will be are on average 3.5 years older um, than the woman. So, an example, in a classroom or in a part-time job, do you see men trying to show this protective nature, this dominance, this um, kind of protective nature, puff out their chest, um, be maybe assertive or aggressive? And or do you see women taking care of others, showing that they would be good mothers? That's evolutionary psychology. Innate behavior is essentially behavior that we're born with. Um, and I mean, that's open to a lot of debate as well. But sneezing, um, blinking, flinching, that's all innate behavior. Cultural influences. Is there any parts of our behavior that we do because of the culture that we have here in Ontario? Um, do we do, is there mob mentalities? Do we check our phones just because other people are checking their phones? Do we uh, wear scarves because other people are wearing scarves? Do we, um, sorry, I'm at a loss here for giving examples of cultural influences. Do we use certain words and phrases because people we look up to use them? And perceived social roles and conformity. Do certain people, are there certain groups in your school or community that maybe stereotypically um, the jocks behave a certain way, or the class clown behaves a certain way, or the high achieving students uh, act a certain way? Or in terms of conformity, do we do things just to fit in? Do we follow the group mentality or the mob mentality just to fit in with our peers? And finally, cognitive dissonance is the idea that we want to avoid conflicts in what we do and what we think. So even though we know it's wrong to smoke, we still do it. Even though I know it's wrong to have 3 Big Macs in a week, I still do it. And we try to rationalize or convince ourselves that, oh, well, I had 3 Big Macs this week, but I won't next week, or I went on 3 runs last week, so it'll kind of balance itself off. That was one of my weaker podcasts. I hope you get a taste of what those behaviors are and some of the examples. Uh, I apologize for that.